stream. I am your host, Raymond Mutuku, and I'm very happy this evening to welcome you to this live stream. I'm very happy. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. It is, let me check from this watch. It is 1:30. January. I'm very happy to be here. We are reading from the book of Judges, and I want us to continue reading I want us to continue reading from the book of Judges, because time is not, because of the interest of time, because of time constraints. I want us to continue reading from the book of Judges, and before the end of the night, finished reading. Hopefully, we should have finished reading the book of Judges. Judges is a wonderful, wonderful book. We're going to learn a lot of things, because now the children of Israel have already settled in the promised land. Now there's a new challenge of, what's up? Welcome to this channel. Very happy to be here. How many chapters are there? I don't want us to waste a lot of time in the book of Judges. Let me see. Welcome to this channel. I'm good. The 21 chapters, let's start immediately. The angel of the Lord at Bochim. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you out of Egypt and led you into the land that I swore to give your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. I don't want us to waste any time, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. That is chapter 2, verses 2. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment because of the interest of time. We're going to move very quickly. Please forgive me if we are reading fast. There are 21 chapters. I want us to cover them in no time. All right? Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these words to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they said, that place Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land. We just have 1 hour, so kindly, we are on I don't know, how can I call it? Time is of the essence here, so kindly ask me questions that are related to the scripture. We are reading from Judges chapter 2. Any questions up to there? We are keeping time. After Joshua dismissed, okay, we have read that. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance, at Timnath Heres in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. After that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Not stop there. Another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. So let's, after that generation had gone, now this is another generation born in the promised land. But remember, the covenant of God was still binding even to the new generation. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors, whom had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them. They aroused the Lord's anger because they forsook him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths. In his anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of raiders who plundered them. All right. In his anger against Israel, God gave them into the hands of raiders who plundered them. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you are watching me. Just because of the interest of time, kindly I want us to concentrate. We just have 1 hour. If we read half of the book of Judges, that would be in our best interest, okay? All right, he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them. Just as he had sworn to them, they were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hands of those raiders. Yet they would not listen to the judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshipped them. They quickly turned from the ways of their ancestors, whom had been obedient to the Lord's command. Whenever the Lord raised a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them from the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. If you're new to this channel, subscribe. Subscribe. We just have 1 hour. Just bought bundles for 1 hour. So kindly let us concentrate. And if you have any questions, kindly ask me questions that are related to what we are doing. Any questions up to there? All right, let's continue. For the Lord relented because of their groaning, and at those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following other gods and serving and worshipping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant I ordained for their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel, to see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did. The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He had not driven them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. Chapter 3. These are the nations the Lord left to test all those Israelites who had not experienced any of the wars in Canaan. He did this only to teach warfare to the descendants of the Israelites who had not had previous battle experience. The 5 rulers of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonites, and the Hivites living in the Lebanon mountains from Mount Baal, Hammon to Lebo Hamath. They were left to test the Israelites to see whether they would obey the Lord's commandments, which he had given their ancestors through Moses. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. The Israelites lived among the Canaanites, the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They took their daughters in marriage and gave their own daughters to their sons and served their gods. Othniel. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Asherahs. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel so that he sold them into the hands of the Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram Hanaraim, to whom the Israelites were subject for 8 years. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. But when they cried out to the Lord, he raised for them a deliverer, Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, who saved them. The Spirit of the Lord came on him, so that he became Israel's judge and went to war. The Lord gave Cushan Rishathaim, the king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him. So the land had peace for 40 years until Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and because they did this evil, the Lord gave Eglon, the king of Moab, power over Israel. Getting the Ammonites and the Amalekites to join him, Eglon came and attacked Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. The Israelites were subject to Eglon, the king of Moab, for 18 years. Again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer, Ehud, a left-handed man, the son of Gera, the Benjamite. The Israelites sent him with tribute to Eglon, the king of Moab. Now Ehud had made a double-edged sword about a cubit long, which he strapped on his right thigh under his clothing. He presented the tribute to Eglon, the king of Moab, who was a very fat man. After Ehud had presented the tribute, he sent on their way those who carried it. But on reaching the stone images near Gilgal, he himself went back to Eglon and said, "Your Majesty, I have a secret message for you." The king said to his attendants, "Leave us." And they all left. Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his palace and said, "I have a message from God for you." As the king rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into the king's belly. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where, and if you're enjoying this channel, kindly tell me where you're watching me from. You see, ladies and gentlemen, here in the book of Judges, and I hope that we're going to finish tonight, has presented itself as a problem that has presented itself not because of forgetfulness, not because of stubbornness, sorry, but because here there's a new generation. The old generation had already passed on, the likes of Joshua, the likes of Eleazar, the likes of Moses, they all passed. Now there's a new generation, okay? And they are already in the promised land, right? So they never saw the crossing of the Red Sea. They never saw what Dathan and Korah were doing. They never saw, the Ten Commandments. They never saw the golden calf. They were a new generation. Of course, there were no, let me call them, you see, and in a new generation, there were no old people who had knowledge of the past. So this new generation faced many challenges. And of course, since they were in Canaan, one of the main challenges that they faced was the worship of Baal and Ashtoreth and other gods who were present in Canaan. Remember that Joshua removed, he gained the land, but of course he never removed the gods of Canaan. Remember, They were commanded to smash all the altars of Ashtoreth, Baal, Milcom, and Chemosh, and Molech. But of course, there were a few remnants, and these remnants continued. Once they knew that the old generation had passed, of course, and there was no one else to fight them, the remnants of the worship of Baal, they mutated and mutated, and it grew. And within no time, the whole Canaan again was infested with the worship of Baal and Molech and Chemosh and all the Ashtoreths of that time. So as much as Joshua was trying to clean the promised land, of course, he did not clean 100%. There were few remnants of the worship of Baal. And when that generation died, again, they sprouted again, the worship of Baal, the worship of Ashtoreth, the worship of Chemosh, Milcom, and Asherah. As much as when they came to the land, they cleaned the entire, region, but that generation died again, and as you know, the spirit, the doctrine, and you see, you can fight a person, but the doctrine remains. I hope that you have understood that. You can fight, an individual, but the doctrine still remains alive and well. The spirit that is of that time of worshiping Milcom, Chemosh, and the Baals of that time, it mutated and grew and became a plague again to the people. Remember, if you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. That is why it is very difficult to remove principality, because if you read the scripture that is in the book of Ephesians chapter 6, it says the battle is not of the flesh but against principalities. So if you read, Paul has told us that the battle is not of the flesh but against principalities and rulers. Are we together? So here, that particular verse, I'm sure that we're going to read it. We're going to understand it better. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, against the spiritual forces of heaven and in the heavenly realms. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Joshua did some good work, but remember that you see, the principalities and the rulers are above, on the earth, and beneath. So let's continue reading. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant I ordained for their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out any of them. Okay, we read that part. We're in chapter... we read about that. We are reading about Ehud. Then Ehud then approached, Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his palace and said, I have a message from God to you. I have a message of God. So this man lied. I have a message from God to you. As the king rose from the seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into the king's belly. Even the handle sank in after the blade, and his bowels were discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. Then Ehud went out to the pouch. He shut the doors of the upper room behind him and locked them. After he had gone, the servants came and found the doors of the upper room locked. They said he must be relieving himself in the inner room of the palace. They waited to the point of embarrassment, but when he did not open the doors of the room, they took a key and unlocked them. There they found their lord fallen to the floor, dead. Any questions up to there? While they waited, Ehud got away. He passed by the stone images and escaped to Seirah. When he arrived there, he blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israel went down with him from the hills with him leading them. Follow me, he ordered, for the Lord has given Moab your enemy into your hands. So they followed him down and took possessions of the fords of the Jordan that led to Moab. They allowed no one to cross over. At that time, they struck down about 10,000 Moabites, all strong, not one escaped. Any questions up to there? That day Moab was made subject to Israel, and the land had peace for 80 years. Shamgar, after Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel. Up to there, we just have 1 hour, so let's take advantage of this 1 hour. I have my watch here, and I'm watching time. All right, time is of the essence, and I don't want us to waste a lot of time. All right, we just have 1 hour, so let's take advantage of that 1 hour. Any questions up to there? Any questions? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Any questions? If you're new to this channel, welcome. We are reading very quickly. I don't want us to waste any time. I want us to read very quickly and move. Yes, let us continue from where we were reading. Any questions up to there? Let us continue reading. Any questions? You can ask me your questions as we read. Any questions? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. We're in the book of Judges. It is my desire that we finish reading the book of Judges, if possibly tonight. I don't know whether we can do that, but I hope that we'll have the strength to read until we finish, so that we can read tomorrow. We can read another book. All right. Okay, Deborah. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now that Ehud was dead, so the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin, the king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Harosheth Hagoyim, because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron, and had cruelly oppressed them. Yes, they cried to the Lord for help. How Deborah, a prophet, wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. Now we have the story of Deborah. The story of the main characters in this chapter is Deborah, Sisera, and Jabin, the king of Canaan. She sent for Barak, the son of Abinom, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to River Kishon, and give him into your hands." Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." "Certainly I will go with you," said Deborah. "But because of the cause you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree of Zanannim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak the son of Abinoam had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Hagosheth Hagoyim to River Kishon all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Hagosheth Hagoyim, and all of Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between the king of Hazor and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come, my lord, come right in, don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. And thus she said, "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. "Stand in the doorway of the tent," he told her. "If someone comes and asks you, 'Is anyone in here?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he was lay fast asleep. Exhausted, he drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Questions up to there. But just then Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet them. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. On that day, God subdued Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the Israelites, and the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. The Song of Deborah. On that day, Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang this song When the princes or in Israel take the lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, praise the Lord. Hear this, you kings, listen, you rulers. I will sing to the Lord, I will praise the Lord of Israel in song. When you, Lord, went out from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, the earth shook, the heavens poured, and the clouds poured down water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel, in the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath. In the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned, travelers took to winding paths. Villagers in Israel would not fight, they held back until I, Deborah, arose. Until I arose, a mother in Israel. God chose new leaders when war came to the city gates, but not a shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. This is the song of Deborah. My heart is with Israel princes, with the willing volunteers among the people, praise the Lord. You who ride on white donkeys, sitting on your saddle blankets, and you who walk along the road, consider the voice of the singers at the watering places. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. They recite the victories of the Lord, the victories of his villagers in Israel. Then the people of the Lord went down to the city gates. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, break out in song. Arise, Barak. Take captive your captive son of Abinoam. If you're new to this channel, welcome. We are reading from the book of Judges. The remnant of the nobles came down. The people of the Lord came down to me against the mighty. Some came from Ephraim, whose roots were in Amalek. Benjamin was with the people who followed you. From Malek, captains came down from Zebulun, those who bear a commander's staff. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah, yet Issachar was with Barak, sent under his command into the valley. Into the districts of Reuben, there was much searching of heart. Why did you stay among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling of the flocks? In the districts of Reuben, there was much searching of heart. Gilead stayed beyond the garden, and Dan, why did he linger by the ships? Asher remained on the coast and stayed in his coves. The people of Zebulun risked their very lives, so did Naphtali on the terrace fields. Kings come, they fought. The kings of Canaan fought at Tanach by the waters of Megiddo. They took no plunder of silver. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. Stop there. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. That is Judges chapter 5 verses 20. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. The river Kishon swept them away. The age-old river, the river Kishon, march on, my soul, be strong. Then thundered the horses' hoofs, galloping, galloping. Go his mighty streets, cast Meroz, said the Lord. Angel of the Lord cast its people bitterly. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. We are reading the scripture in just 60 days. I hope that we'll be able to finish reading by that time, because they did not come to help the Lord, against the mighty. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Most blessed of tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, and she gave him milk in a bowl fit for nobles. She brought him curdled milk. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera. She crushed his head. She shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank. He fell There he lay, at her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell dead. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out, "Why is his chariot so long in coming? Where is the clatter of his chariots delayed?" The wisest of the ladies answered her, "Indeed," she keeps saying to herself, "are they not finding and dividing the spoils? A woman or two for each man, colorful garments as plunder for Sisera, colorful garments embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck, all this as plunder. So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but may all who love you be like the sun when it shines in its strength." Any questions up to there? We in Judges. Then the land had peace for 40 years. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. We're in Judges chapter 6. I hope that we'll be able to read the book of Judges and finish it. And before tomorrow morning, before break of dawn, we should be able to finish reading the book of Judges. Any questions up to there? Gideon. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord for 7 years. He gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, I want you to read that part. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and tribes invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined their crops all the way to Gaza and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep or cattle nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock and tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them. Animals, they invaded the land to ravage it. Midian, so impoverished, the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I say to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live." But you are not listening to me. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak of Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, right? Where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. Gideon was threshing wheat in the winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why is all this happening to us? Where are all your wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt?'" Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Any questions up to there? Any questions up to there? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hands of the Midians. The Lord turned on him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of the Midians' hands. Am I not sending you?" "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Gideon replied, If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you. And the Lord said, I will wait until you return. Gideon went inside, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he made bread without yeast, putting the meat in a basket and its broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of the God said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out its broth. Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and unleavened bread with the tip of his staff, and that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread. The angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord. The Lord said to him, Peace, do not be afraid, you're not going to die. So Gideon built an altar to the Lord and called it The Lord is Peace. To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezerites. That same night, the Lord said to him, Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah poles beside it. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. There build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on top of this height, using the wood of Asherah pole that you cut down. Offer the second bull as a burnt offering. So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime. In the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished, with the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed to the newly built altar. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. They asked each other who did this. When they carefully investigated, they were told Gideon, the son of Joash, did it. The people of the town demanded of Joash, Bring out your son, he must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, Are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. So, because Gideon broke down Baal's altar, they gave him the name Jerub-Baal that day, saying, Let Baal contend with him. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Now all the Midianites, the Amalekites, and other eastern peoples joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Abiezerites to follow him. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also in Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. So they too went up to meet him. Gideon said to God, If you will save Israel by my hand, as you had promised, look, I will place a wall fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you are watching me. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not be angry with me. Let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece, but this time make the fleece dry and let the ground be covered with dew." That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry, all the ground was covered with dew. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped in the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. That is Gideon chapter 7. Judges 7. I cannot deliver Midian into your hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. Anyone who trembles with fear. So 20,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. So he had 30,000 men. But the Lord said to Gideon, these still are too many men. Take them down to the river, and I will thin them out for you there. I will thin them out for you there. If I say this one shall go with you, he shall. But if I say this one shall not go with you, they shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink. 300 of them drank with cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. All the rest got down to their knees to drink. They got down to their knees to drink. But some separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midians into your hands. Let all the others go home. That is good. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 men. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Those who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 men who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. During that night, the Lord said to Gideon, "Get up, go down against the camp, because I'm going to give it to your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they're saying. Afterwards, you will be encouraged to attack the camp." Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Afterwards, you'll be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outpost of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern peoples had gathered in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sands of the seashore. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. And Gideon arrived just as a man was telling his friend his dream. "I had a dream," he was saying. "A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with much force, but the tent overturned and collapsed." His friend responded, "This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite." Any questions up to there? God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, we just have 60 days to read the scripture, and I hope that we'll have the tenacity, we'll have what it takes and the patience to read the scripture in that stipulated time. When Gideon heard the dream and the interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. He returned to the camp of the Israelites and called out, "Get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands." Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them, with torches inside. "Watch me," he told them. "Follow my lead. When I get into the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all those with me blow our trumpets, then from all round the camp blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon." Gideon and the 300 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. Just after they had changed the guard, they blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The 300 companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars, grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets that were to blow, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." And each man held his position round the camp. All the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. With the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth Shittah towards Zerera as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tabbath. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Any questions after that? Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down against the Midianites and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth Barah." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they seized the waters of the Jordan as far as Beth Barah. They also captured two of the Midianite leaders, Oreb and Zeb. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. They pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan. Any questions after that? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Now, the Ephraimites asked Gideon, "Why are you treating us like this? Why didn't you call us when we went to fight Midianites?" And they challenged him vigorously, but he answered them, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't I the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than the full grape harvest of Abiezer? God gave Oreb and Zeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. Was I able to do compared to you? What was I able to do compared to you?" At this, the resentment against him subsided. Gideon and his 300 men exhausted. If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Welcome to this live stream. We're reading from the book of Judges. I hope that by the end of 1 hour or 2 hours, we'll be able to finish reading the entire book of Judges so that we can start reading the book of Ruth. Any questions after that? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted yet keeping up the pursuit, came to Jordan, crossed it. He said to the men of Succoth, "Give my troops some bread. They are worn out, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." Any questions after that? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. But Succoth said, "Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possessions? Why should we give bread to your troops?" Then Gideon replied, "Just like that. When the Lord has given Zebah and Zulma into my hand, I will tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars." From there he went up to Penuel and made the same request to them, but they answered as the men of Succoth had. So he said to the men of Penuel, "When I return in triumph, I will tear down this tower." Now, Zebah and Zalmunna, if you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. We're in Karkor with a force of about 15,000 men. All that were left in the armies of the eastern peoples, 120,000 swordsmen had fallen. Gideon went up to the route of the nomads east of Mobar and Jogbeha and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two kings of Midian, fled, but he pursued them and captured them, routing their entire army. Gideon, the son of Joash, then returned from the battle of the pass of Heres. He caught a young man of Succoth and questioned him. And the young man wrote down for him the names of the 70 officials of Succoth, the elders of the town. Then Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me by saying, 'Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men?'" He took the elders of the town and taught the men of Succoth a lesson by punishing them with desert thorns and briars. He also pulled down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the town. Then he asked Zebah and Zalmunna, What kind of men did you kill at Tabor?" "Men like you," they answered, "each one with the bearing of a prince." Gideon replied, "Those were my brothers, the sons of my own mother. As surely as the Lord lives, If you had spared their lives, I would not kill you. Turning to Jephthah, his oldest son, he said, kill them. But Jephthah did not draw his sword because he was only a boy and afraid. Zebah and Zalmunna said, come and do it yourself. As is the man, so is his strength. So Gideon stepped forward and killed them and took the ornaments off their camels' necks. Any questions up to there? The Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hands of the Midian. But Gideon told them, I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. And he said, I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from your share of your plunder. It was the custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. They answered, we'll be glad to give them. So they spread out a garment, and each of them threw a ring of his plunder onto the gold rings he asked for came to 1,700 shekels, not counting the ornaments, the pendants, and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian. Any questions up to there? If you're new to this channel, subscribe and comment. Tell me where you're watching me from. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his town. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshipping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace for 40 years. Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own, for he had many wives. His concubine who lived in Shechem also bare him a son, whom he named Abimelech. Gideon, the son of Joash, died at a good age, and he was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah and the Abiorites. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. They set up Baal-berith as their god, and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hands of their enemies on every side. They also failed to show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in spite of all the goods he had done for them. Let's start a new stream.